The first night Ethan Walker slept in the Cliffside house, the ocean screamed louder than his grief. Waves hurled themselves against the rocks below like they were angry at the world, and the wind rattled the old wooden shutters as if trying to warn him, this place remembers things. Ethan lay awake on a thin mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to his 7-year-old daughter Lily breathe softly beside him. He had promised her this move was a fresh start, but as the salt-heavy air pressed into his lungs, he wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. Just 6 months earlier, Ethan's life had been ordinary in the most comforting way. A small rented home in Oregon, a steady job as a high school English teacher, evenings filled with homework, dinner, and the quiet laughter of his wife Claire. Then cancer arrived like an uninvited guest who refused to leave. It hollowed Claire out slowly, cruelly, until one morning Ethan woke up holding a hand that no longer held back. In a single year, he went from husband to widower, from partner to single dad, from confident to barely holding it together. The Cliffside house was not part of any dream he'd ever had. It was cheap, suspiciously cheap, perched on the edge of a forgotten coastal town in Northern California. The real estate agent avoided his eyes when she handed him the keys. "It's been empty a long time," she'd said too quickly, "but the view is unforgettable." Ethan hadn't cared about views or rumors. He cared about rent he could afford, and a place far away from memories that hurt too much to breathe around. Lily, on the other hand, was fascinated from the moment she saw the house. "Daddy," she whispered as they stood at the edge of the cliff, her hair dancing wildly in the wind. "It looks like a house from a storybook." Ethan smiled because he knew how to fake one now. "Let's hope it has a happy ending," he said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. The house groaned as they moved in, every floorboard announcing their presence like an old man clearing his throat. Dust coated everything. Cobwebs clung to the corners like forgotten thoughts. But Lily ran from room to room, claiming spaces with joy that made Ethan's chest ache. "This can be my room," she shouted. "And this can be yours. And this one can be Mommy's, I mean—" She stopped, eyes wide, terrified she'd said something wrong. Ethan knelt and pulled her into a hug. "It's okay," he said softly. "Mommy's still with us, just in a different way." Lily nodded, pressing her face into his jacket. They stood there longer than necessary, two souls trying to figure out how to be enough for each other. The first sign that the house held secrets came a week later. Ethan was unpacking boxes in the attic, a low, narrow space with a single round window facing the sea, when he noticed scratch marks on the floor near the far wall. Not random scratches, but deliberate, as if something heavy had been dragged back and forth for years. Beneath an old, moth-eaten rug, he found a small wooden door set into the floor. No handle, no lock, just a faint carving etched into the wood, a heart cracked down the middle. Ethan felt a chill crawl up his spine. He told himself it was just an old storage compartment. Still, he didn't open it, not yet. That night Lily woke him up crying. "Daddy," she whispered, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Someone was singing. Ethan sat up immediately. "Singing?" He listened, but all he heard was the ocean and the wind. It was probably the waves, sweetheart. She shook her head fiercely. No, it was a woman. She sounded sad, but nice. Ethan forced calm into his voice. "Dreams can feel very real," he said, though his heart thudded hard. Lily eventually fell back asleep, but Ethan didn't. He lay awake, staring into the dark, wondering if grief could echo through walls. Over the following weeks, strange things happened. Lily's nightmares stopped completely, replaced by peaceful sleep. Fresh flowers began appearing on the kitchen table every Sunday morning. Wildflowers, damp with dew, even though Ethan never picked them and had no idea where they came from. Once he found an old blanket folded neatly at the foot of Lily's bed, a blanket he had never seen before. And then there was the journal. He found it while cleaning out a built-in cabinet in the living room. Leather-bound, worn soft with age, its pages yellowed and fragile. The first entry was dated 1983. If anyone ever finds this, it read, "Please know that this house was built on love, not loneliness." Ethan sat down, the ocean roaring outside as he read. The journal belonged to a woman named Margaret Hale. She had lived in the house decades earlier with her husband Thomas and their young son Samuel. The entries were full of small joys at first. Sunsets, laughter, recipes, bedtime stories. Then the tone shifted. Thomas died in a fishing accident. Margaret wrote about becoming a single mother overnight, about fear, about nights spent crying quietly so her son wouldn't hear. Ethan felt like the words were reaching out to him across time. The later entries were harder to read. Margaret's health declined. She worried constantly about Samuel's future, about leaving him alone in a world that hadn't been kind to her. The final entry ended abruptly. "If love can stay behind," she wrote, "then I will leave all of mine here." That night Ethan returned to the attic. His hands trembled as he pulled back the rug and pried open the small wooden door. Inside was a narrow space carved into the rock itself, candles, children's drawings, and a small sealed envelope with his name written on it. Ethan nearly dropped it. Inside the envelope was a letter, written in the same careful script as the journal. "To the one who comes here carrying both love and loss," it began. "If you are reading this, then you know what it means to be afraid and strong at the same time. I couldn't protect my son from the pain of losing me, but I wanted to. Leave something behind that would protect,